Marijuana Nation, just a super quick update on our planned return to publishing 4 days per week. As I mentioned on Tuesday, the heating boiler in my house kind of blew up on Sunday, and it's completely disrupted things around the old Gunther homestead, which also doubles up as my office. Thankfully, the Fix-It guys have been able to get my hot water on with the installation of a new hot water heater, but the furnace is taking time yet, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be off the air next week on Thursday and Friday as the entire upstairs of my house gets ripped apart with the installation of a new heating system. So we'll be pushing out shows next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then, assuming nothing else in my house blows up, we'll finally be back to 4 days of shows per week, Tuesday through Friday, the week of March 8th. So keep your fingers crossed. Thanks again for the assumed patience. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Cova Software, the #1 dispensary point-of-sale system in North America. Swing over to covasoftware.com today to see why 2/3 of all Canadian cannabis stores run on Cova Software, which is also the fastest-growing dispensary software in the United States, with more than 100 new client dispensaries open for business in January alone. One more time, that's covasoftware.com with Cova spelled C-O-V-A. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, February 26th, 2021, and you're tuned in to episode 2 to the power of 10 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our buddy Ben Adlin, a new regular on our weekly flagship show Marijuana Today, has a stellar top story. As yesterday, the Washington State Supreme Court decriminalized the possession of small amounts of all drugs in a sweeping decision in the matter State v. Blake, a case involving a woman, Shannon Blake, who was arrested by police after they searched her and found a small bag of drugs in that tiny pocket found on pairs of jeans. Ms. Blake said she had been given the jeans, which were secondhand, as a gift just a couple of days before, but that did not prevent her conviction of the crime. Her lawyers sued, and the case spun up to the state Supreme Court, where yesterday justices ruled in such a way that sets a statewide precedent for all drugs, stripping criminal penalties entirely from the books. This is a big deal, and there is surely a lot of analysis to follow in the coming days and weeks. But in the meantime, I'd swing over to Ben's story on Marijuana Moment to absorb all the initial details. As we always do, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Today is an important day in Virginia, as tomorrow is an important legislative deadline for proposed laws to legalize adult-use marijuana. Two versions of legalization legislation have been slowly making their way through the state Senate and House of Delegates, and right now there are a number of differences still left to be settled on how the two chambers would like to see legalization happen. Ned Oliver over at the Virginia Mercury is even reporting that as of last night, it wasn't exactly clear that the Senate and House will be able to find common ground. So an interesting storyline to keep a close eye on over this weekend for sure. Right now, the largest gaps in how the two chambers want to pass adult use concern language in the Senate to delay even starting to create a taxed and regulated sales program until next year, and differences in when criminal penalties for marijuana possession go away. This time with the House taking the more conservative route of maintaining criminality until 2024. Lawmakers will continue to work on the bills today and tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have more to report on this next week. Definitely another good one to read in full and to have a solid handle on. To Montana we go for our final top story in the day and the week, as a proposed measure being pushed by a Republican state representative to delay the rollout of legal adult use cannabis by 1 year is causing a lot of consternation among the state's ranks of cannabis entrepreneurs and operators. Voters in Montana passed a citizens' initiative in November to legalize adult use marijuana, which would have the state start accepting applications for adult use dispensaries in October. Republican State Representative Bill Mercer's proposed bill, introduced just last week, would push that back by a year to October of 2022, delaying the actual first sale of adult use into early 2023. Medical marijuana dispensary operators with plans to expand to adult use are saying the delays would cost them and the state hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. Representative Mercer's bill goes before the House Business and Labor Committee today, so here's to hoping for a swift and decisive vote into the trash bin of proposed legislation. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Cova Software, the #1 dispensary point-of-sale system in North America. There are a lot of reasons why Cova Software is the #1 dispensary point-of-sale system in North America, but maybe none so important than its rock-solid reliability, with a 99.9999% uptime. That's 6 nines. And when it comes to performing over the all-important 420 holiday, Cova has 0 crashes, 100% uptime, and an average processing time of just 1.4 seconds each and every year. Think about your own dispensary's point of sales program and how that stacks up, and I think you start to get a sense of why Cova's software is proving to be so popular. Then stack up all the other benefits that being a Cova software client brings, and it starts to feel like one of those no-brainer questions. Do you need automatic compliance? Cova has that. Offline mode? Cova has that too. White glove launch service? You guessed it, Cova has that too. In addition to open APIs, scalability, fast and free support, and best-in-class partner ecosystems. Don't delay today and don't just take my word for it. Open up covasoftware.com and learn how Cova can make your business better. That's covasoftware.com with Cova spelled C-O-V-A. All right, time for the Blitz. On Wednesday, the New Mexico House Taxation and Revenue Committee passed via an 8-4 vote House Bill 12, a proposed measure to legalize adult-use marijuana, just a week after the bill sailed through the Health and Human Services Committee. We've been long tracking the broader storyline behind the push for adult-use legalization in New Mexico, and this year is seen by most industry observers as the year prohibition will fall in the state. There are actually a number of proposed bills to legalize in the works right now, and as Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment has it, House Bill 12 is the preferred bill for most activists as it contains provisions to use some tax revenue as reinvestments back into communities hit hardest by the historic and current war on marijuana. The bill also sets up automatic expungements for past cannabis crimes. Another good one to add to your list of stories to read in full today. Bart Shainman over Marijuana Business Daily has a good story and chart up looking at how the sale of cannabis pre-rolls has fared over the last year or so. Despite the fact that the world's been under the grips of a deadly viral pandemic that affects people's ability to breathe, people have been buying up a lot more pre-rolls at legal cannabis shops, with sales up nearly 50% in certain key markets over the last year. Bart's story is one of those pieces that you just need to open up in full, especially if your business touches at all the pre-roll category. Speaking of stories you should look at for insight on the sale of cannabis goods, Matt Lamers has another charty Marijuana Business Daily piece, this time jumping up to Canada for a peek at how the sale of legal marijuana edibles and concentrates has tracked over the last year. The big headline on this is the slight dip seen in sales in November, the first time there was not month-to-month growth. This also runs with the ongoing storyline of the buildup in the inventory of legal edibles and concentrates by licensed Canadian cannabis companies. A proposed bill to legalize adult-use marijuana was approved by the North Dakota State House of Representatives earlier this week. The proposed measure, if turned into law, would set up a limited taxed and regulated sales program devoid of social justice provisions or home grow. The bill now heads over to the North Dakota Senate for deliberations there. Regulators in Missouri are giving medical marijuana business license holders some extra time to get their operations up and running, as around 260 of the 370 licensed operators are still working to open their doors. The official deadline for license holders to get their shops open was this month, but now dispensaries have until September. As of earlier this week, 78 dispensaries in Missouri are licensed and open, with 62 in the very final stages. Canadian marijuana giant Canopy Growth has filed paperwork to raise up to $2 billion US in investment over the next 25 months, which Marijuana Business Daily notes is the largest such filing to date by a legal marijuana company. Canopy raised billions of dollars after being acquired by beverage conglomerate Constellation Brands and had a reported $4 billion cash on hand as late as 2018, which fell to just $653 million or so as of last year. New Jersey is the location of our final headline today, where the state's Attorney General Gurbir Grewal has ordered the state's prosecutors to drop cases for marijuana charges while also issuing guidance to police on how they should act in a new post-cannabis prohibition world. The note sets February 22nd as the date after which all charges should be dropped, which was the date the actual legislation was signed by Governor Phil Murphy. You can dive into all the details on this, and there are a lot of them wrapped up in the police guidance, especially over at Marijuana Moment. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Tuesday with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Kova Software, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.